I never saw it coming. Honestly, I thought I was a pretty good husband. My name is Mike, and I've been married to Sarah for 5 years. We had a decent life together, 2 kids, a house in the suburbs, and the normal ups and downs of a relationship. But over the last few months, things felt off. Just little things. The way she'd roll her eyes when I'd talk about my latest project at work. How she seemed more interested in her phone than in our conversations during dinner. I chalked it up to the stress of life, parenting, and maybe a bit of monotony. After all, she once called me too predictable, a comment I brushed off until it started to gnaw at me. The signs were there, but I was too blind to see them. Sarah had always been the life of the party, full of energy and laughter. But lately she was different, quieter, more irritable and secretive. I noticed her spending more time on her phone, often texting late at night. When I'd ask who she was talking to, she'd simply wave me off, saying it was just work or her friends. I didn't want to be the controlling husband, so I let it slide. But I began to wonder if there was something more going on. It all came to a head one fateful Friday. Sarah had been acting particularly distant all week, and I decided to take the kids out for ice cream to give her some alone time. When I got home, the house was dark, and I noticed Sarah's car was in the driveway. As I stepped inside, I could hear muffled sounds coming from our bedroom. I froze, heart racing, my gut telling me something was very wrong. Quietly, I crept down the hallway, and as I got closer, the sounds became clearer. Laughter and a man's voice, one that wasn't mine. I don't know what made me do it, but I peered through the slight crack in the door. There she was, my wife, Sarah, sprawled across our bed, giggling like a schoolgirl, and next to her was some guy I didn't recognize. They were having a moment. I was frozen with shock, disbelief crashing over me like a wave. My mind was racing, trying to process the scene before me. I turned away, my heart pounding in my chest, and stumbled back into the living room. I didn't know what to do. Should I confront them? Should I storm in there and demand answers? Instead, I just sat on the couch, feeling hollow inside. The laughter from the bedroom echoed in my ears, a cruel reminder of what I had just witnessed. After a few moments of shock, the anger surged in me like a wildfire. I couldn't believe she'd betray me like this. I'd trusted her, loved her, and this was how she repaid me. I waited, feeling the tension build, imagining what I'd say when they finally emerged. My thoughts flickered through all the lies I'd heard over the years, the little things that hadn't added up. When Sarah finally stepped out of the room, her laughter faded as she caught sight of me. Her face turned pale, and for a moment I thought she might faint. The look of surprise morphed into a defensive posture, and she crossed her arms, readying herself for whatever was about to unfold. Mike. I can explain, she stuttered, the confidence she had with that guy evaporating in an instant. I felt rage bubbling up inside me. Explain. You want to explain what exactly? Because I've just seen you with another man in our bed, Sarah. Her excuses came tumbling out like a waterfall: stress, loneliness, the kids. I remember her saying something about how I was never there for her, how I'd become boring and predictable. I wanted to scream, to shake her, to make her understand how much she had hurt me. But all I could do was stand there, feeling the betrayal cut deep. That moment I felt like my whole world was crashing down. I had invested so much into our life together, and now it felt like I was standing on the edge of a cliff, watching everything I loved fall away into an abyss. I needed to gather my thoughts and emotions. This was just the beginning. I stormed out of the house, my mind racing. I needed air, I needed to think. I drove around aimlessly for what felt like hours, the streets blurring past me as I tried to process what had just happened. My thoughts were a chaotic mix of anger, betrayal, and confusion. How could she do this? How could she have the audacity to cheat, too? Lie right to my face all those months. I pulled into a park and sat in my car, gripping the steering wheel so hard my knuckles turned white. The kids were at my parents' house for the weekend, thank God. I couldn't handle the thought of them witnessing this disaster. My phone buzzed. Sarah was calling. I ignored it. I didn't want to hear her voice, not now, not after what she had done. I took a deep breath and tried to calm myself down. I didn't want to make any rash decisions, but it was hard to think rationally when my heart felt like it was being ripped from my chest. I ran through the last few years in my mind, Our wedding day, the birth of our kids, the little moments that made up our life together. And now, it felt like a cruel joke. Eventually, I went back home, knowing that I needed to confront Sarah again. I found her sitting on the couch, her arms wrapped around herself as if she were trying to shield herself from the reality of what she had done. Her eyes were red and puffy, and I could see the guilt etched on. But it did little to soften the blow. "Mike, please," she said softly, her voice trembling. "I'm so sorry, I never meant for any of this to happen. Really." I shot back, feeling the anger rise again. "You never meant for this to happen. You think that makes it any better. You think I care about your excuses." She tried to reach for my hand, but I pulled away. "Don't touch me," I snapped. "You don't get to act like this is some mistake. You made a choice, Sarah. You chose to cheat." For a moment she looked lost, like a deer caught in headlights. "I know it sounds bad, but it was just a fling. It didn't mean anything. I was just feeling so alone." "Alone?" I interrupted. "We have 2 kids together. We're building a life together. You didn't even think about the consequences, about how this would affect our family." She looked away, shame washing over her face. "I was just looking for something I felt was missing. I didn't think it would go this far." "Didn't think it would go this far?" I echoed incredulously. "You've been lying to me, sneaking around behind my back, and you think that a couple of heartfelt apologies are going to fix this." I felt the weight of every betrayal I'd endured over the years crashing down on me. All those times she had claimed to be too busy or too tired. Every moment I had supported her. Every time I had been patient, and it all came down to this. My heart was in shambles, but a part of me was also furious, jaded to the point of wanting revenge. She started to cry, and I could see the tears rolling down her cheeks. "Please, Mike, I love you. I want to make this work. We can go to therapy. We can fix this. I promise I'll change." Love. How could she still say that word after tearing my heart apart? I didn't respond right away. I needed to think. Sure, I loved Sarah, but could I ever trust her again? The betrayal hung heavy in the air like a dark cloud, and I knew I had to make a decision soon. As I looked at her, the woman I once thought I knew, I felt a flicker of something else rising within me, something dark and vengeful. I had never thought of myself as the type to seek revenge, but the thought was intoxicating. What if I could make her feel the same pain she had inflicted on me? I took a deep breath, trying to steady myself. "Maybe I need time to think," I said finally, my voice steady but laced with bitterness. "But know this, Sarah, things are going to change. You're not the only one who gets to make choices in this relationship." With that, I walked away, leaving her sobbing on the couch. My heart felt heavy, but I also felt a spark of determination igniting inside me. If she thought she could get away with this, she had another thing coming. I would not let this betrayal define me. I would take control. The game had changed, and I was ready to play. The next few days were a whirlwind of emotions. I vacillated between anger, devastation, and a strange sense of empowerment. I moved through the motions of everyday life, taking care of the kids, managing work, and pretending everything was fine. But inside I was raging. I kept replaying that scene in my mind. The sight of Sarah with that guy, the laughter they shared, the betrayal etched into the very fabric of our home. Each memory felt like a knife twisting deeper into my heart. I knew I had to plan my next steps carefully. I refused to be a victim. I began to gather evidence, not just for myself, but as a way to arm myself against whatever excuses she might come up with next. My mind was racing with ideas. I wasn't the type to take revenge lightly, but her betrayal demanded a response. I needed to make her realize the gravity of her actions. I started by watching her behavior closely. She was trying to play the part of a loving wife again, showering me with affection she had neglected for months. But I could see through the facade. There were still late-night texts and an air of distraction around her. Every time she laughed too loudly at something or was a little too eager to engage me in conversation, I felt the anger bubble inside me anew. On the third night after the confrontation, I decided to take action. I set up a hidden camera in our bedroom. It felt wrong, but the urge to know more was overpowering. I needed to see if she would slip up again. It was a gut-wrenching decision. I never thought I would resort to espionage in my own home. But the stakes were high, and I needed confirmation of what I suspected. I spent the next few days on edge, waiting for her to leave the house. Every time she stepped out of the room, my heart would race. I replayed the footage when she was out, checking for anything suspicious. At first it was mundane, just her getting ready for work or tidying up the house. But on one occasion she received a call that sent my heart racing. I watched as she answered her phone, a glimmer of familiarity lighting up her face. "Hey babe, I miss you too," she said, a smile spreading across her lips. My blood boiled. She was still seeing him. Just a few days after our confrontation, and she was back to the same old tricks. The anger I had been holding back erupted like a volcano. I was no longer just hurt, I was furious. I had been patient, I had been understanding, and this was how she repaid me. I remembered the words she said about being unhappy, how I was predictable. Well, I would show her just how predictable I could be when I set my mind to it. I devised a plan that felt both exhilarating and terrifying. I wanted to confront her with the truth, not just about her infidelity, but in a way that would make her realize the depth of her betrayal. I decided to set up a situation where I could trap her in her lies and force her to face the reality of what she'd done. The next evening, I acted natural. I took the kids to the park, giving her the perfect opportunity to see the guy again. I texted her, pretending to be supportive, telling her I would be home late. I could already feel my heart racing at the thought of what was to come. Would she even realize I was onto her? When I returned home, the house was dark. I crept into our bedroom and I could hear her voice again, soft and intimate just like before. There was that same laughter. I quietly activated the hidden camera I had set up and I waited. The scene unfolded before me and I could feel my heart pounding in my chest. The door opened and in walked the same guy. They shared a brief kiss and I felt a mixture of rage and satisfaction wash over me. I had caught her red-handed. This time there would be no way for her to wiggle out of it. I watched as they settled in, unaware that I was watching them from a distance, fueled by a mix of anger and vindication. But instead of the thrill of revenge, I felt a pang of sadness. This was the woman I had built a life with, and now it was all coming apart at the seams. I didn't want to be this person, the jealous, vengeful husband, but I felt the need to take control of my narrative. When they started getting intimate, I couldn't take it anymore. I burst into the room, my heart racing, adrenaline coursing through my veins. What the hell is going on here? I shouted, the shock on their faces, a fleeting moment of satisfaction before the anger surged again. Her eyes widened in horror, and for a brief moment I saw fear, but as quickly as it appeared it was replaced by defiance. "Mike, what are you doing here?" she exclaimed, her voice tinged with panic and annoyance. "What am I doing here?" I echoed, stepping deeper into the room. "I'm here to see the truth you've been hiding from me. I've seen everything." The guy, who looked just as bewildered, tried to back away, realizing he was caught in the middle of something explosive. I pointed at him, my voice dripping with disdain. "You get out of my house." Sarah's face twisted into a mask of anger. "You don't get to dictate who I see, Mike. You're the one who's been pushing me away." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "Pushing you away? I've been here. I've been trying." But as we stood there, the confrontation shifted from anger to something deeper. I could feel her resentment boiling over, and in that moment I knew this wouldn't end well. This was just the beginning of a long road ahead. And while I might have caught her in the act, the emotional fallout was yet to come. I was prepared to confront the truth, ready to face whatever consequences lay ahead. This was war now, and I was ready to fight back. The confrontation exploded in a cacophony of raised voices, hurtful words, and the shattering of our once harmonious home. Sarah stood defiantly, her arms crossed, as if to shield herself from the reality I had just thrust upon her. The guy, still standing there awkwardly, shot me a look of confusion before hastily gathering his clothes and scrambling to get out. He didn't want any part of this mess, and honestly, I didn't blame him. "Get out!" I yelled again, my voice reverberating off the walls. As he hurried past me, I couldn't help but feel a strange mix of satisfaction and disappointment. I wanted to confront Sarah, but I also wondered how we had ended up here, in this surreal moment where our lives were unraveling in front of us. Once the guy was gone, I turned my full attention back to Sarah. The anger that surged through me was primal, Yet there was also an undercurrent of hurt that I couldn't shake off. "What the hell were you thinking?" I shouted, unable to contain my frustration. "How could you do this to us, to our family, us?" She shot back, her voice laced with venom. "You don't even see how you've been treating me. I've felt so alone, Mike. You've been so caught up in your work and the kids that you've ignored me. I needed something more. More." I spat, incredulous. "You needed more than our life together. We have a family, Sarah. We built this together. You don't just throw it away because you feel bored." She scoffed, shaking her head. "You think you're so perfect. You're the one who's been predictable. You've become a shadow of the man I fell in love with. I was just looking for a little excitement, something to make me feel alive again. I didn't think it would go this far." "Excitement? This is not just some fling, this is betrayal. You've shattered my trust." I felt the weight of every emotional wound she had inflicted on me. "Do you have any idea what this means for us, for our kids?" Her expression softened momentarily, but the anger was still there, simmering just beneath the surface. "I know I messed up, but I'm not the only one to blame. You've been distant for so long, and I felt like I was invisible. Don't act like you're innocent in all this." The fight morphed into a painful exchange of grievances, a raw and emotional reckoning of everything that had gone unsaid for years. Each word felt like a dagger, cutting deeper into the already festering wounds of our marriage. I talked about the long nights I had put in at work, the times I had sacrificed my own needs for hers, and how I thought we were a team. She countered with how lonely she felt, how she had tried to communicate but felt unheard. In that moment, I felt like we were two ships passing in the night, locked in a battle of accusations and hurt. This wasn't just about her affair anymore. It was about the cracks in our relationship that had widened over time. Despite the anger coursing through my veins, I began to see the shades of gray in our situation, our failures, both hers and mine. But even with the understanding that we both had a role in the decline, our marriage, the betrayal felt like an anchor pulling me down. It was hard to reconcile the good memories with the harsh reality before me. I could feel the tears prickling at the corners of my eyes, and I tried to push them back. I wasn't ready to be vulnerable, not now. "I don't know if I can forgive you for this," I finally said, my voice shaking slightly. "The trust is gone, and I don't know how to rebuild it." "I'll do anything, Mike," she pleaded, her tone shifting to desperation. "I love you. I want to fix this. I want us to go to therapy to work through our issues. Just give me a chance." My heart ached at her words, but I couldn't help but feel the weight of her betrayal hanging like a dark cloud over our future. "You think therapy will fix everything? How can I trust you again? How can I know you won't just go back to him?" Silence enveloped the room as we both grappled with the gravity of the situation. I could see the fear in her eyes, the realization that she had put everything at risk, but I also felt a twinge of compassion. I knew Sarah wasn't a monster. She was a person who had made a grave mistake, driven by her own insecurities and feelings of inadequacy. "I don't know what to do," I said finally, my voice barely above a whisper. "I need time to think. I can't just jump back in without knowing if this is worth saving." "Please, Mike," she said, stepping closer, her hands trembling as she reached out to me again. "I'm so sorry. I'll do whatever it takes. Just don't give up on us. We can fight for our family together." Her words hung in the air, a fragile thread of hope amidst the chaos. I wanted to believe her, but my heart was heavy with distrust. Maybe a part of me wanted to fight for our marriage, but another part of me felt like I had to look out for my own heart. The thought of going back to a normal life felt impossible. I didn't know if I could forgive her, and even if I could, the scars of this betrayal would remain. I felt a wave of sadness wash over me, realizing that whatever path we chose, the journey would be fraught with challenges. As I turned away, trying to process everything, I realized that I would have to make a decision soon. The emotional fallout from her betrayal was just beginning, and I wasn't sure how to navigate the storm ahead. But I knew one thing for certain: I wouldn't let her choice destroy me. I would find a way to reclaim my life, whether that meant rebuilding what we once had or finally letting go of the past. The road ahead was uncertain, but I was determined to find my way through it. The days that followed our explosive confrontation were suffocating. I felt like I was living in a fog, moving through the motions of life but not truly engaging with it. The kids were blissfully unaware of the turmoil brewing beneath our roof, and I did my best to maintain a semblance of normalcy for their sake. I took them to school, helped with homework, and made dinner, all while my mind raced with thoughts of betrayal and heartache. Sarah and I tiptoed around each other like two strangers sharing a house, both unsure how to bridge the chasm that had formed between us. I could see the guilt etched on her face, the desperate attempts to connect with me, but I was still so angry, angry at her betrayal, angry at myself for being blindsided, and angry at the life we had built together that now felt like a fragile illusion. She often tried to engage me in conversation, wanting to discuss our next steps, but every time she spoke, I felt a wave of resentment wash over me. I didn't want to hear her voice, the same voice that had whispered sweet nothings in my ear only to turn around and betray me. I was torn between wanting to salvage our marriage and the overwhelming urge to pack my bags and walk away from it all. One night after the kids had gone to bed, Sarah sat down across from me at the kitchen table. "Can we talk?" she asked, her eyes filled with a mixture of hope and anxiety. I sighed, knowing this conversation was inevitable. "Talk about what?" I replied curtly, leaning back in my chair, crossing my arms defensively. "About us, about how to move forward," she said softly, her voice quivering slightly. "I've been doing a lot of thinking and I want to make things right. I know I messed up and I'm willing to do whatever it takes." Her sincerity was palpable, but I felt the walls I had built around my heart tightening. "You think saying you're sorry is enough?" I shot back, my frustration boiling over again. "You broke my trust, Sarah. That doesn't just magically heal because you want it to." "I know it doesn't," she replied, her voice cracking. "But I'm committed to doing the work. I want to go to therapy together to figure out what went wrong. I don't want to lose you, and I don't want to lose our family. I love you." Love. The word echoed in my mind like a haunting melody. Could I still love her after what she had done? As much as I tried to deny it, a part of me still yearned for the woman I had married. The memories of our happiest moments together flickered in my mind, but they were overshadowed by the pain of her betrayal. "I don't know if I can trust you." Again, I confessed, my voice barely above a whisper. "You've shattered everything we built together, and I don't know how to put the pieces back together." Sarah nodded, tears glistening in her eyes. "I understand, but I'm asking for a chance to prove to you that I can change. I know I can't take back what I did, but I want to show you that I'm willing to fight for us." The desperation in her voice tugged at my heart, and for a moment I felt a flicker of hope. But then the memory of that night, the laughter, the betrayal washed over me, dousing the flame of hope before it could ignite. I needed time to think, to process. "Maybe we should take a break," I suggested tentatively, weighing my words carefully. "Just some time apart to figure ourselves out. I can't be the husband you need when I'm feeling this way." Her face fell, and I could see the pain etched deep in her features. "A break? Mike, please don't do this. I'm terrified of losing you." "I'm terrified too, but I can't pretend everything is okay when it's not," I replied, my voice firm yet soft. "A break might give us both the clarity we need." She looked defeated, and I felt a pang of guilt. I didn't want to hurt her, but I also needed to protect my own heart. I needed space to think about what I wanted and whether this marriage was worth saving. That night I moved into the spare room. As I lay in the unfamiliar bed, staring at the ceiling, my mind was a whirlwind of emotions. I felt lonely, lost, and confused. I couldn't shake the feeling that I had to make a choice soon. The following days were agonizingly slow. I found myself lost in thought, reflecting on our relationship, the good times, the struggles, the moments that had brought us to this point. I replayed our happiest memories, the laughter we shared, and the dreams we built together. Yet, they felt tainted by the recent events. I also started to reach out to close friends, sharing bits and pieces of what had happened. Their support was invaluable, and hearing different perspectives helped me process my own emotions. They encouraged me to stay strong, to focus on my own well-being first. I was grateful for their understanding, and it felt good to talk about my feelings openly. After a week apart, I agreed to meet Sarah for coffee. I felt nervous, unsure of what to expect. When I saw her, she looked different, vulnerable yet hopeful. The air was thick with tension as we settled into our seats, both of us searching for the right words. "I've been thinking," she started, her voice soft. I know you need time and I want to respect that. But I've realized something important. This isn't just about us anymore, it's about our kids too. Her statement struck a chord within me. I had been so focused on my own hurt that I hadn't fully considered how our decisions would affect our children. They deserved a happy family, and I wanted to give them that if it was still possible. I want to make this work for them, I said, my voice steady. But it's going to take a lot more than just saying you're sorry. I need to see real change. I'm willing to do the work, she replied earnestly. I've already started therapy on my own, and I can't express how much I regret my choices. I want to understand why I did this, why I felt so empty. I promised to put in the effort. As the conversation continued, I could sense a shift in the air. The hopefulness that was once overshadowed by anger began to spark again. It was a fragile flame, but it was there. We talked about our love, our family, and the possibility of rebuilding. I realized that while the road ahead would be difficult, the willingness to fight for our family was a step in the right direction. We both needed to commit, not just to saving our marriage but to understanding ourselves and what had led us here in the first place. Leaving the coffee shop that day, I felt a mix of uncertainty and cautious optimism. The journey to heal would be long, but I was hopeful we could navigate it together. It wouldn't be easy, but we owed it to ourselves and our kids to try. As I walked away, I felt a little lighter, ready to embrace whatever came next. The weeks that followed our coffee meeting were among the most challenging of my life. Sarah and I committed to a new chapter, one where we would both actively work on ourselves and our marriage. We began therapy together, which felt daunting at first, but gradually became a safe space for both of us to express our feelings. Our therapist helped us navigate the complexities of our relationship, guiding us through the emotional minefield that lay between us. During those sessions, we explored our histories, our childhoods, our fears, and the patterns that had brought us to this point. Sarah opened up about her feelings of loneliness and unfulfillment, while I shared my struggles with being present and balancing work and family life. It was uncomfortable, but it was also liberating to air our grievances in a structured environment, free from the emotional chaos we had been caught in before. One breakthrough moment came when Sarah admitted how she had felt suffocated by the predictability of our life. I thought I needed excitement, she said, tears streaming down her cheeks. But I realized now that I was running away from the love we had. I didn't see how wonderful our life could be when we worked together. Hearing her vulnerability was a turning point for both of us. I realized that my own predictability had come from a place of comfort and stability, and it was important to find ways to reignite the passion in our relationship. As we both began to take responsibility for our roles in our broken marriage, I felt a flicker of hope. We started small date nights, weekend outings, and even just spending quiet evenings together without distractions. I found joy in the little moments, like cooking together or playing board games. With each shared experience, we began to rebuild a bond that felt genuine and real. Of course, it wasn't all rainbows and butterflies. There were setbacks and moments of doubt. Some nights I lay awake, haunted by the betrayal that lingered in the back of my mind. I had to confront the fact that trust would take time to rebuild, but Sarah was patient, understanding, and committed to making things right. One particularly difficult evening, after a heated argument about an issue that seemed trivial, I could feel the familiar walls creeping back in. I was on the verge of retreating into my shell when Sarah reached out for my hand. "I know this is hard," she said softly, "but I believe in us. I know we can get through this together." In that moment, I realized I had a choice. I could either cling to the pain of the past or choose to believe in the possibility of a better future. I chose the latter. We had both made mistakes, but we were willing to learn from them, to grow together. As the months passed, I began to notice a shift, not just in our relationship, but within myself as well. I felt a sense of empowerment, a newfound strength that I hadn't realized I possessed. I was reclaiming my identity, not just as a husband, but as a person who deserved happiness and fulfillment. One evening, while we were sitting on the porch after putting the kids to bed, I turned to Sarah and said, "I can't promise that everything will be perfect, but I'm committed to us, to this journey we're on together." Her smile lit up the night. "Me too, Mike. I know it'll take time, but I believe we can build something even stronger than before." In that moment, I felt a warmth spreading through me, the realization that maybe, just maybe, we could rise from the ashes of our past and create something beautiful. It wouldn't be easy, but we were in it together, committed to making our marriage a priority. As we sat under the stars, I realized that the experience had taught me valuable lessons, not just about love and trust, but about resilience and forgiveness. We had both strayed, but we had chosen to find our way back to each other. The journey to healing would continue, but I was ready to embrace it, one step at a time. I knew there would be challenges ahead, but with open hearts and a willingness to learn, I felt confident we could weather any storm together. And in that moment, I felt a genuine sense of hope for our future, a future that I was now ready to fight for.